The service entrance is around the back, pal. I'm checking in. Not in that sweatshirt, you aren't.
Deveraux walked into the Calloway Grand, expecting nothing more than a room. Instead, he was judged by his clothes,
I have a
denied
confirmation number,
service,
suite
and treated like
1408.
he didn't belong.
1408? That's a signature suite. Look, there's a motel outside. They don't have a profile requirement. Mr. Ashton, welcome back. I've moved you to the penthouse, no charge. Why are you still standing in my lobby? My money is the same color as Mr. Ashton's, Brant. This is not about the money. It's about the fit. And you don't fit here.
What Preston and the others didn't know was that Deveraux hadn't come to the hotel as a guest. He had come with a purpose.
I don't care who you called. I've run this hotel for 7 years. I know how to handle people like you. You're leaving, now, or we do this the hard way. Yes, I'm at the Calloway Grand.
And the phone call he made on his way out was about to ruin their entire career that day. Deveraux Okafor is 44 years old. He grew up in Decatur, Georgia, 12 miles from where he's standing now. 2-bedroom apartment. His mother, Celestine, worked the overnight shift at a hospital laundry facility for 19 years. She pressed strangers' sheets in a basement room that smelled like industrial bleach from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., 5 nights a week, so her children could have school supplies and one good pair of shoes at a time. She never complained. She never explained. She just did it. Deveraux inherited her precision and her patience, and the particular quiet that comes from spending years watching how rooms work before deciding how to enter them. He put himself through Georgia State, hospitality management, built his way up over 8 years from front desk agent to operations director, saved, studied, pitched. At 36, he founded Meridian Hospitality Group. Nobody at the Calloway Grand knows any of that. What they see is a black man in a gray crew neck with one bag. What they don't know is that Meridian is in acquisition talks with this hotel's parent company. Deveraux is here to conduct a personal site visit, undercover, as he does with every property before a deal closes. His mentor told him 20 years ago, "Come in as the guest nobody expects to matter. That's the only way you'll see what the place actually is." The leather notebook goes everywhere with him. 3 observations per property, never more, never less. He's already written 1. Brant Fellows has managed the Calloway Grand for 7 years. He does not yell. He does not write slurs in emails. He does not say the wrong thing in public. He has received 4 internal commendations and 2 regional hospitality awards and has 0 formal complaints that made it past his own desk. That last part is not an accident. Brant's discrimination is architectural. He builds the system and steps back and lets it operate so that if anyone ever points a finger, there is nothing to point at directly. He pulls staff aside. He uses specific phrases. Use your judgment. Maintain our standards. You know the kind of guest I'm talking about. He transmits the meaning without stating it and relies on the fact that most people who inherit a culture don't examine it. They absorb it and pass it forward. 3 of his senior front desk staff have worked under him for over 4 years. They understand the language without translation. What Brant does not know, Deveraux Okafor has walked 23 hotel floors in the past 4 years using this exact method. His 41-page site reports are thorough enough to make lawyers nervous and precise enough to make them lose. What Brant especially does not know, the acquisition offer is on the table. The final decision rests entirely on what Deveraux writes in that notebook. He is writing in it right now, on the elevator up to 14. By the end of the weekend, 6 names will fill those pages. None of them know it yet. Preston Hale, 24, front desk agent, 3 years under Brant. He learned the culture quickly because it was easier than examining it. Fielding Cross, 29, concierge, considers himself exceptional at reading guests. He is correct about what he's measuring. Tatum Reed, 34, head of lobby security, uses his presence as a policy. Colette Marsh, 26, front desk agent. The newest, still learning the language. learning faster than she should have to. Nadine Burrows, 38, housekeeper, floors 12 through 16. 6 years here, originally from Macon, Georgia. Filed 2 internal complaints about service disparities. Both closed within a week with no findings. She is not timid, she is strategic, which means she has learned exactly how much to say, to whom, and when, inside a building that has never valued what she knows. Claudette Harmon, 55, Regional VP, Westbridge Corp. She oversees this property from Charlotte and has known about the complaint pattern here for 3 years. She has done nothing actionable with that knowledge. Thursday evening, after check-in, Deveraux sits at the far end of the 4th floor bar. Leather stool, clean sight lines, good for watching how a room runs. The bartender, Marcus, is working the space. 2 white patrons already seated. He makes eye contact with the first within 30 seconds, refills the second without being asked. A 3rd patron sits, white male, loosened tie, end of a long day. Marcus is beside him in 90 seconds. What can I get you? Deveraux counts. He is not obsessive about it, just noting. 9 minutes after he sat down, Marcus makes it to his end of the bar. Yeah? Not sir. Not what can I get you. Just, yeah. Aimed slightly to the left of his ear. Blanton's, Deveraux said. Neat. Marcus paused. Something shifted in his face. The particular reorganization of a man deciding how to word a question he's already decided he wants to ask. You mean like a well bourbon? Or did you have something specific? Blanton's. Deveraux held eye contact. Buffalo Trace Distillery. Bottle with the horse on the cap. Top shelf. Your right side. A beat. Marcus turned, pulled the bottle, poured without another word, set the glass down, and moved away without asking if Deveraux needed anything else. The man with the loosened tie got a napkin, a water, a follow-up question about the menu. Deveraux turned his glass slowly on the bar, looked at the amber color of the bourbon, reached into his pocket and wrote one word in the notebook, delay. He tipped 40% in cash and went upstairs. Friday morning, 8:15 a.m. Deveraux picked up the room phone. Suite tier bookings at the Calloway Grand included a standard late checkout benefit, 2 p.m. It was printed on the room's welcome card. On the hotel website, in the booking confirmation, Colette answered. Good morning, Calloway Grand Front Desk. Good morning, Deveraux Okafor, Suite 1408. I'd like to confirm late checkout for Sunday. A pause. Let me check on that. More pause than it needed to be. I'm sorry, Mr. Okafor. Late checkout isn't available this weekend. High occupancy. We need all rooms turned by noon. Deveraux looked at the welcome card in front of him. Suite benefit. Late checkout. 2 p.m. Printed in the hotel's own brand font. I see, he said. Is there anything else? No, thank you. He hung up the phone. 20 minutes later, he stepped into the elevator. The doors opened on 11 and a white couple stepped in. Mid-40s, luggage, the relaxed energy of people who've just had a pleasant exchange with someone downstairs. The woman was still talking. Extended it without even asking. 2 o'clock on a sold-out weekend. Honestly, the sweetest thing. Best hotel in Buckhead, the man said. Absolutely meant it. The elevator descended in silence. Deveraux wrote 2 lines in the notebook. Friday afternoon, 3:20 p.m. Fielding Cross stood at the concierge desk in a tailored jacket with a perfectly folded pocket square, projecting the energy of a man who considers anticipating needs an art form. Deveraux approached. I'm looking for a dinner recommendation. Something exceptional. Fielding looked at him. 1 second. The kind of look that processes and files information before the person in front of you has finished their sentence. Absolutely. His smile was polished, empty behind the eyes. For something casual with great flavor, there's a spot on Howell Mill. Excellent Southern comfort food. Very popular. I was thinking Bacchanalia. A pause. Fielding's head tilted slightly. The micro-expression of a man recalibrating. That might be difficult for tonight. They book well in advance, and with short notice, I'm not sure we'd be able to secure anything. Could you call and check? I can try, but I wouldn't want to get your hopes. I'll wait, Deveraux said. Fielding picked up the desk phone, made a show of dialing, spoke to someone for less than 40 seconds. Came back with the same tilted head. Unfortunately, they're committed tonight. So sorry, but that Howell Mill spot. Thank you, Deveraux said. He walked to the elevator, pulled out his phone, called Bacchanalia directly. They had availability. Delighted to accommodate a party of 1 at 8 o'clock. The reservation took 3 minutes and 40 seconds. He had one of the best meals of his year. He wrote one line in the notebook when he got back to the room. Friday evening, 10:40 p.m. Deveraux came through the main entrance from the street. Gray crewneck, phone, keycard, nothing else. He crossed the lobby toward the elevator. Tatum Reed moved, not running, not aggressive, just one deliberate step into the path, the way a gate closes. Arms loose, expression neutral, the physical language of a man who has done this before and found it effective. "Can I help you, sir?" The phrase that meant the opposite of helping. Deveraux stopped, held up his keycard between 2 fingers. Tatum's eyes went to the card, then back. Then he stepped aside with a nod, as if this had been a reasonable security procedure and not what it was. Deveraux kept walking. Across the lobby, 2 armchairs by the window. A young black couple, both sharply dressed, clearly guests, clearly not experiencing this hotel for the first time. The woman had watched the entire exchange. Her jaw was tight with the specific exhaustion of someone who has been tired of something for a very long time and has no remaining energy for surprise. Her eyes met Deveraux's for half a second. He gave the smallest nod. She looked away. He rode the elevator to 14. Sat on the edge of the bed without turning on the light for a moment. Thought about Celestine. About what it means to move through a building and be invisible in it. About what you can see from that position that no one who belongs easily can ever see. He opened the notebook, wrote 3 lines, closed it. Saturday morning, 7:20 a.m., Nadine came in early. She always did on Saturdays. She was heading to the basement break room for her first coffee when she heard voices through the door she hadn't pushed fully open yet. Preston's voice, and Marcus from the bar. She stopped. 1408 called again this morning. Preston had the theatrical exhaustion of someone performing irritation for an audience. 3rd time since check-in, late checkout, same answer every time. "What's he doing, keeping a log?" Marcus said. "Let him. What's he going to do about it?" Preston's voice carried the particular confidence of someone who has never had a good answer to that question come back at him. "You know what kills me? The way they come in here, like this place owes them something. Like buying a room means they get the same thing as our actual guests." Brant's been clear about that. Brant's too diplomatic. Preston's voice dropped, but not low enough. "I'll just say it plainly. Some people built places like this. Some people clean them. Every now and then, one of them gets a little money and gets confused about which category they're in." A short laugh from Marcus. "Personally," Preston continued, "I don't care what card he's running. I don't care what he paid for that suite. You can put him in 1408, dress him up in whatever he wants to wear. Doesn't change what he is. Doesn't change where he came from. Our real regulars, the Whitfords, the Ashtons, the people who've been coming here since the doors opened, they built the Calloway Grand's reputation, not him, never people like him." A pause. "He's going to check out Sunday, and I'm never going to have to think about him again, and that's exactly how it should be." Nadine stood with her hand flat on the door and felt something crystallize that had been forming for 6 years. She had heard versions of this before. She had filed 2 complaints, both gone circular into Brant's desk. She backed away from the door. She did not go in for her coffee. She went to the elevator and pressed 14. Saturday morning, 7:50 a.m. Deveraux was in the 2nd floor corridor outside the business center, phone to his ear, reviewing numbers with his operations director in a low voice. Brant Fellow's voice came from around the corner. Deveraux stopped talking, put the call on mute, reached into his pocket and pressed record. 1408 again. Brant's voice was low and certain, the voice of a man who is very sure he is not being heard. "Going forward, every request from that room gets closed. Late checkout, concierge calls, whatever. Don't give him a reason. Just close it." Preston, "What if he escalates to the review sites?" "He won't escalate anywhere that matters. No hesitation. 7 years of never being wrong about this. And if a review comes in, flag it. I'll handle the language on the response. A pause. I've managed luxury properties for 22 years. I know my guest profile. The Calloway Grand has a reputation. Our real guests, the people who built what this place is, they expect a certain environment, a certain standard. When someone comes in who doesn't fit that profile, it creates friction. Managing that friction is your job. Colette's voice, hesitant. How do we know when? You know. Delivered like something obvious. You've always known. Use your judgment. If someone looks like they wandered in from the wrong side of town, they probably did. That's not a personal opinion. That's protecting everything we've built here. A brief silence. Are we clear? 2 quiet confirmations. Footsteps moving away. Deveraux stood in the empty corridor for 23 seconds without moving. He stopped the recording, put the phone in his pocket. He took out the notebook and wrote the third and final observation of this visit. Then he closed it, went upstairs, made 1 phone call, and came back down to the lobby to wait. Saturday morning, 9:15 a.m. Deveraux was in the lobby armchair near the window, the same chairs the young couple had sat in Friday night, with a cup of coffee and his book open. He had been sitting there for 20 minutes. He was watching the room. Brant Fellows crossed the lobby from the direction of the front desk. He was moving with purpose. Buttoned jacket, French cuffs, the GM's stride, calibrated to project authority without appearing to rush. He stopped at Deveraux's chair. Mr. Okafor. His voice was pleasant and precise. A man initiating a management interaction he was very confident he controlled. I'm Brant Fellows, General Manager. I apologize for interrupting, but I wanted to address something personally. Deveraux looked up from his book. We've encountered a billing discrepancy on your reservation this morning. Brant's expression carried the practiced sympathy of a man delivering bad news he has delivered many times. It appears there's been an issue with the card on file for Suite 1408. Our system has flagged it, and unfortunately, we're going to need to process a new form of payment or, he paused, let the next word land carefully, make alternative arrangements for this evening. The lobby had 6 other guests in it, the white couple from the elevator, seated at the breakfast table to the left, a businessman reading by the window, a woman at the concierge desk with Fielding, and the young black couple, Cortland and Yvette Farr, who had just come through the front entrance and stopped near the door, waiting for the valet ticket, all of them within earshot. Deveraux closed his book. He looked at Brant with the same expression he'd been wearing for 3 days, calm as still water, giving nothing away. Which card has the discrepancy? Our system shows. I booked through Westbridge's corporate portal. The reservation was pre-authorized at booking. He reached into his pocket and held up his phone with the confirmation email open. Authorization code right here. What exactly did your system flag? Brant's eyes went to the phone. Back to Deveraux. These things can be technical. The billing team flagged it this morning and, can I speak to your billing team directly? A pause. They're not available on Saturday mornings, but I can certainly. So you're asking me to vacate a suite I've paid for in full, Deveraux said, based on a flag from a department that isn't available to explain it, with no documentation, on a Saturday. The businessman by the window had lowered his newspaper. The couple at the breakfast table had gone quiet. Cortland Farr, near the entrance, had his eyes fixed on the exchange with the specific alert attention of a man who has seen this before from a different side of it. Brant straightened slightly. He was a man who had managed his way out of uncomfortable guest interactions for 22 years. He knew how to hold the frame. Mr. Okafor, I understand your frustration, but the Calloway Grand reserves the right to address billing concerns at our discretion, and I want to make sure we resolve this with as little inconvenience. You just asked me to leave, Deveraux said, quietly. Not accusation. Just precision. In a lobby full of people, on a fabricated billing issue, for a room I have full documentation of paying for in advance. He paused. I want to make sure we're both clear on what just happened here. Brant said nothing. The lobby was very quiet. Deveraux picked up his book, picked up his coffee. Stood. I'll be in my suite, he said. If your billing team becomes available, I'd welcome the call. He walked to the elevator. The doors closed. Brant stood in the center of the lobby with 6 guests' eyes on him and the specific sensation of a man who has just done something he cannot take back. He smoothed the front of his jacket. He walked back toward the front desk. He had no idea that 2 hours from now, 3 black SUVs would pull up to his front entrance. He had no idea that Deveraux Okafor had been recording the lobby on his phone since the moment Brant said his name. Deveraux opened the door to Suite 1408 and found Nadine Burrows standing in the corridor with a clipboard. She had heard about the lobby. Word moved fast in a hotel's service staff. She looked at him. "I heard what he did downstairs," she said quietly. Deveraux nodded. "I also heard something in the break room this morning before I came up the first time. I was going to tell you then, but..." She stopped. "Preston said some things. About guests like you. About which category people belong in." Deveraux was still for a moment. "Are you willing to put that in writing?" "I filed 2 complaints already. Both went nowhere." "Something's about to happen," he said. "And when it does, your name needs to be part of the record. Not for Westbridge. For you." Nadine looked at him the way people look when they're deciding whether to trust something they want very badly to be true. "Who are you?" she asked. He looked at her directly. "Right now, I'm the guest in 1408 who got a plastic water bottle while everyone else got glass and was just told to vacate his suite on a fabricated billing issue." He paused. "Ask me again on Sunday." Nadine nodded once. She went back to her cart. She pulled out her phone and found a number she'd saved 8 months ago and never used. The Westbridge HR Ethics Hotline. She typed, "I have a statement to make. I'm ready to talk," and pressed send. Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m., the first black SUV pulled up to the Calloway Grand's main entrance. Then the second, then the third. 12 people stepped out. Business attire, laptops, legal folders. 2 of them wore Meridian Hospitality Group credentials, visible at their collars. Among the 12 was a woman who walked into the lobby and made Brant Fellows stop mid-step from across the room. Sable Trenick, 47, lead counsel for Westbridge Hospitality Corp., who had flown in from Charlotte and was not scheduled to be here until next week. Brant changed direction immediately. Hand extended. GM Energy fully assembled. "Sable, I wasn't expecting." Sable shook his hand once and stepped sideways. Deveraux Okafor walked through the front door. Same gray crew neck. Phone in one hand, leather notebook in the other. He crossed the lobby at an easy, unhurried pace. Sable's associate stepped beside him, addressed him as Mr. Okafor, handed him a folder. A second team member said, clearly and distinctly across the marble floor, "The Meridian team is ready upstairs, sir. Westbridge has full access confirmed." The Meridian team. Brant Fellows stood with his hand still slightly extended. His mind ran the name. Meridian. Meridian Hospitality. He knew that name. 19 properties. $74 million revenue. The acquisition. The site visit that had been scheduled with the parent company. The personal visit the buyer was going to conduct before the deal closed. Westbridge had mentioned it 3 weeks ago. Brant had nodded and forgotten about it because buyers sent acquisition teams. They sent lawyers and financial analysts. They did not send. Deveraux paused in the center of the lobby. He turned. He found Brant's face across the marble floor. He held the look for exactly 2 seconds. No anger, no performance, just the patient, complete look of a man who showed up as exactly who he was and gave the room 3 days to catch up. Then he turned back toward the corridor. Brant moved. Fast. "Mr. Okafor." He was across the lobby in 10 steps, voice low, controlled. The crisis management professionalism of a man whose whole life has been learning to manage things before they become public. "I want to address this morning. The billing situation was a system error, completely our fault, and I want to personally apologize." Deveraux stopped walking. He turned slowly. "Which part of this morning?" he said. Brant blinked. "I'm sorry?" "You introduced yourself to me personally. You told me there was a discrepancy on my reservation. You suggested I make alternative arrangements." His voice was completely level. In front of 6 guests, with no documentation and no billing team available to verify the claim. A pause. That's what you want to apologize for? Brant's jaw worked. There was a genuine miscommunication about Mr. Fellows. Sable stepped beside Deveraux. Her voice was the voice of someone who has handled situations like this before and found them unremarkable. We're going to need about 90 minutes of your time in the second-floor conference room this afternoon. Please make sure your schedule is clear. Brant looked at Sable, looked at Deveraux, looked at the lobby around him. Preston was behind the front desk. He had been watching since the SUVs pulled up. His face had been doing something involuntary for the past 60 seconds. Fielding was at the concierge desk. He was very still. Tatum was near the entrance. His expression had the specific blankness of a man running calculations and not liking the results. Cortlandt and Yvette Farr, the young black couple from Friday night, were crossing the lobby toward the breakfast area when the exchange happened. Cortlandt stopped walking. He looked at Deveraux. He looked at Brant. He looked at the Meridian credentials on the team members around them. He put his hand on his wife's arm. She looked up. She saw it too. From the elevator bank, Nadine Burrows was watching with a clipboard under her arm and her phone in her hand, and the expression of a woman watching something she has waited a very long time to see. Brant straightened his jacket. "Of course," he said. "I'll clear my afternoon." He walked back toward his office, and for the first time in 7 years inside this building, his stride was not a GM stride. It was a man trying to remember how to walk normally. The conference room on the second floor had a long mahogany table and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Peachtree Hills Avenue. Brant sat at one end. Sable and Deveraux's legal team arranged themselves across from him. 2 Westbridge board representatives sat at the side. The site report was already on the table. 41 pages, tabbed, annotated. "I want to start by saying," Brant began, with the measured openness of a man who has decided his best option is reasonableness, that whatever Mr. Okafor may have experienced during his stay, it does not reflect. Sable pressed play on her laptop. Brant's voice came through the speaker. Clear, unmistakable. If someone looks like they wandered in from the wrong side of town, they probably did. That's not a personal opinion. That's protecting everything we've built here. The room was completely silent. Brant's hands, which had been resting on the table with deliberate calm, moved into his lap. "That was taken out of, recorded on the property you manage during working hours, in the course of directing employee conduct toward a paying guest," Sable said. "Georgia employment law and Westbridge's own conduct policy, both of which you signed at the start of your tenure, define this as documented workplace communication. It is not private." Brant said nothing. Additionally, Sable turned to the next tab in the report. "Mr. Okafor's team pulled service response data from your own property management system, with Westbridge authorization, covering 24 months. She slid the summary page across the table. Brant looked at it. Black guests in suite-tier rooms, 23% longer average wait for concierge response. Complaint resolution time for black guests, 4.1 days. For white guests in equivalent bookings, 1.3 days. Late checkout approved for white guests who requested it, 84%. For black guests requesting the same documented benefit under identical booking terms, 31%. These are your numbers," Deveraux said. His first words since sitting down. Quiet, not accusation, just the weight of 7 years laid flat on a table. "Your system, your records. We didn't build this data, you did." Brant looked at the page for a long moment. When he looked up, the reasonableness in his face had changed into something different, something calculating. "I've run a profitable property for 7 years," he said. 4 internal commendations. 2 regional awards. My satisfaction scores are measured via surveys distributed by the same front desk staff we now know we're operating under your direct instruction about which guests deserve which level of service. Sable's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Your satisfaction scores are measuring performance within the system you built. They are not measuring the guests your system was designed to exclude. Brant looked at the window. Additionally, Sable continued, we have this morning's lobby incident on recording. Mr. Okafor was recording from the moment you approached him. She played it. Brant's voice, again. The billing discrepancy. the alternative arrangements. In front of 6 guests, one of whom was a Westbridge board member's daughter staying on the 4th floor. She had already submitted a written account to Sable's office. Brant closed his eyes. "Your administrative suspension is effective immediately," Sable said. "Your property access will be revoked at 9 p.m. Westbridge will conduct a full investigation before a final determination on your employment status is made. But I want to be direct with you about what that determination is expected to be." Brant nodded slowly. He stood, straightened his French-cuffed sleeves. A habitual gesture, the physical language of composure that no longer had anything to compose. He looked at Deveraux one final time. "I didn't know who you were," he said. Deveraux looked back at him steadily. "You knew exactly who I was," he said. "That was the whole point." Brant walked out. He exited the building at 9:02 p.m. through the employee entrance, carrying a box of personal items. Tatum Reed was in the parking lot when he came out. Tatum, who had been placed on administrative leave 2 hours earlier pending review of the lobby footage. Tatum, who had stepped into this man's path 2 nights ago and felt the specific satisfaction of a smaller power asserting itself. He watched Brant walk to his car without a word. The rest came in sequence. Preston Hale was called into HR Sunday morning. The recording from the break room, Nadine's account corroborated by a second housekeeper who had entered the room during the same conversation, was placed in front of him alongside 3 guest complaint records that had surfaced in the rapid audit. His termination letter cited discriminatory conduct and willful participation in a hostile guest environment. He started to say it wasn't intentional. Some people built places like this. Some people clean them. Every now and then, one of them gets confused about which category they're in. HR read it back to him from the transcript. Preston went quiet. Fielding Cross was terminated Sunday afternoon. 11 documented concierge interactions with black guests, showing a pattern of downgraded recommendations and absent follow-through, against a near-perfect high-end service record with white guests in equivalent booking tiers. His exit interview lasted 4 minutes. He did not contest the findings. Tatum Reed was terminated Tuesday morning. Lobby security footage from Friday night, cross-referenced with 2 prior incidents in the hotel's own archive, both involving black male guests, both involving the same physical positioning, made the documentation clean. Colette Marsh received a formal warning and mandatory retraining and kept her position. Westbridge's HR team determined she had been operating under direct management instruction. She was reassigned to a different property in January under a different supervisor. Claudette Harmon, the regional VP who had received 3 years of escalating complaint documentation and done nothing actionable with any of it, was placed under board investigation for failure of oversight. 2 board members requested an independent audit of her supervision record going back to the first documented complaint. Her attorney advised her to preserve all communications. By Wednesday, the story had broken in 2 Atlanta outlets and a national hospitality trade publication. By Thursday afternoon, the hallway audio was on social media, not the full recording, just the 17 seconds. If someone looks like they wandered in from the wrong side of town, they probably did. It was enough. The Calloway Grand received 214 one-star reviews in the 4 days following publication. 46 came from black guests, describing experiences that mapped directly onto what Deveraux had documented. The dates, the names, the specific language, a pattern that had been invisible on paper for 7 years, became very visible very fast. Cortland and Yvette Farr, the couple Deveraux had watched in the lobby Friday night, filed a guest discrimination complaint with the Georgia Commission on Equal Opportunity after seeing the news coverage. Their complaint documented an incident from 3 months earlier, their booked suite reassigned to a smaller room at check-in without explanation, while a white couple who arrived after them received an unsolicited upgrade to the room originally reserved under the Farr's name. Their complaint was accepted for investigation in January. Nadine Burrows gave a recorded statement to Westbridge's external investigators. Her 2 previous internal complaints, both closed without findings, were reopened. Her account, combined with testimony from 2 other housekeeping staff members, formed the foundation of a hostile work environment claim that expanded the investigation beyond guest treatment to staff treatment. Westbridge settled the claim with 4 black housekeeping employees, including Nadine, within 6 weeks. $218,000. Her attorney negotiated the confidentiality clause down to the dollar amount only, not the facts. The facts were already public. Nadine stayed. She was promoted to housekeeping supervisor under the interim management team Meridian, installed after the acquisition closed in December. She moved her mother out of the house she'd been renting in Macon and into a nicer one. She didn't tell many people about the promotion. She showed up on the first Monday of January with her name in a new position on the scheduling board and went to work. Meridian Hospitality Group acquired the Calloway Grand for $43 million, $4 million below the original asking price. The reduction was negotiated based on the liability exposure documented in the site report. Westbridge didn't contest it. Deveraux mandated 3 structural changes before the ink dried. Anonymous guest feedback routed directly to Meridian Corporate, bypassing local management. Quarterly service equity audits conducted by a third-party firm. A revised hiring framework requiring management roles to reflect the demographic composition of the surrounding community within 18 months. He did not make a speech about it. He wrote a memo. February. Washington, D.C., the National Hospitality Leadership Summit. 1,400 people in a ballroom. Executives, investors, operators, hospitality professionals from 31 states. The kind of room that shapes industry policy by virtue of who chooses to speak in it. Deveraux stood at the podium in a dark suit. He was not a dramatic speaker. He didn't need to be. He spoke the way he had always moved through rooms, without performance, without excess, saying precisely what he meant and letting the weight of it do its own work. He didn't mention the Calloway Grand by name. He talked about walking floors. Every property I've considered acquiring, I've checked into Undercover first. No announcement, no advance team, just a bag and a room. I show up as exactly what I am, a black man who can afford the room, and I watch what the hotel actually does. He picked up the leather notebook from the podium. 3 observations, every floor, never more. My mentor told me 20 years ago that if you want to know what a property really is, you come in as the guest nobody expects to matter. He paused. I've been doing that for 8 years, not as a strategy. As a reminder, he looked out at the room. My mother worked the overnight shift at a hospital laundry for 19 years. She pressed other people's sheets in a basement room that smelled like bleach, 11 at night to 7 in the morning, so her children could have school supplies. She spent her whole career being invisible in buildings owned by people who never thought about her once. He set the notebook back on the podium. This industry is built on the labor of people who are expected to be invisible. The question, the only question, is what you do once you know that. Whether you build a system that keeps running the way it always has, or whether you walk the floor and look honestly at what you've actually built. His voice didn't waver. The man who ran the hotel I just acquired had 22 years of experience, 4 commendations, 2 awards. He also had 7 years of documented evidence that black guests in suite-tier rooms waited longer, got less, and were shown to the door faster. It was all in his own data. He just never looked. End quote. A pause. He looked at me for 3 days and saw someone who didn't matter. The room was very quiet. The kind of quiet that means people are hearing something rather than just listening to it. You will always see what you expect to see. The question is whether you've built an operation around your expectations or around the truth of who walks through your door. He stepped back from the podium. The applause came and he let it run. Then he stepped down from the stage and through the side door and stood alone in the corridor for a moment. He reached into his jacket pocket. He took out the leather notebook. He opened to a new page. He wrote 3 words at the top. Celestine was right. Then he closed it, put it in his pocket, and went to find his team. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe, because there are more stories like this one, and every single one of them deserves to be told.